Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Amazing Sharks. This week we're doing several different types of sharks, and here is why. We are doing originally the nurse shark and the tawny nurse shark and the short tail nurse shark. However, in Australia, the sand tiger shark is also known as the gray nurse shark, so I decided to throw him in as well because he is technically considered a species of nurse shark, even though it's of a different strain of shark. So that is what we're going to be working on this week. So I hope you guys are looking forward to it. I hope you all have a great rest of the month of May. Hopefully all your snow has cleared up like ours has. And welcome back to Amazing Sharks. All right, you guys, we're going to get started with our wonderful nurse sharks. This is an elasma branch fish in the family Ginglyomostramodi. The conservation status of the nurse shark is globally assessed as vulnerable on the IUCN list of threatened species. They are considered to be a species of least concern in the United States and the Bahamas, but considered to be near threatened in the western Atlantic Ocean because of their vulnerable status in South America and reported threats throughout many areas of Central America and the Caribbean. They are directly targeted in some fisheries and considered bycatch in others. Nurse sharks are an important species for shark research. They are robust and able to tolerate capture, handling, and tagging extremely well. As inoffensive as nurse sharks may appear, they are ranked fourth in documented shark bites on humans, likely due to incautious behavior by divers on account of the nurse shark's calm, sedentary nature. They have two rounded dorsal fins, rounded pectoral fins, and an elongated caudal fin and a broad head. Maximum adult length is currently documented as 10 foot 1.5 inches, whereas past reports of 15 foot and corresponding weights of 730 pounds are likely to have been exaggerated. Adult nurse sharks are brown in color. Newly born nurse sharks have a spotted coloration which fades with age and are about 30 centimeters in length when nascent. The nurse shark has a wide but patchy geographical distribution along tropical and subtropical coastal waters of eastern Atlantic, western Atlantic, and eastern Pacific. In the eastern Atlantic, it ranges from Cape Verde to Gabon, accidental north to France. In the western Atlantic, including the Caribbean, it ranges from Rhode Island to southern Brazil, and in the East Pacific, from Baja California to Peru. Nurse sharks are typically inshore bottom-dwelling species. Juveniles are mostly found on the bottom of shallow coral reefs, seagrass flats, and around mangrove islands, whereas older individuals typically reside in and around deeper reefs and rocky areas where they tend to seek shelter in crevices and under ledges during the day and leave their shelter at night to feed on the seabed in shallower areas. Nurse sharks are subject to piebaldism, a genetic condition that results in a partial lack of body pigmentation and a speckled body. They are opportunistic predators that primarily feed on small fishes and some invertebrates. They are typically solitary, nocturnal animals rifling through bottom sediments in search of food at night, but are often gregarious during the day, forming large sedentary groups. Nurse sharks are obligate suction feeders capable of generating suction forces that are among the highest recorded for any aquatic vertebrate to date. Although their small mouths may limit the size of prey, they can exhibit a suck and spit behavior or shake their head violently to reduce the size of food items. They are exceptionally sedentary, unlike most shark species. Nurse sharks show strong sight fidelity, typical of reef sharks, and it is one of the few shark species known to exhibit mating sight fidelity, as they will return to the same breeding grounds time and time again. American alligators and American crocodiles may occasionally prey on nurse sharks on some coastal habitats. Photographic evidence and historical accounts suggest that encounters between species are commonplace in their shared habitats. Nurse sharks are ovoviviparous, with fertilized eggs hatching inside the female. The mating cycle of nurse sharks is biennial, with females taking up to 18 months to produce a new batch of eggs. The mating season runs from late June to the end of July, with a gestation period of 6 months and a typical litter of 21 to 29 pups. The young nurse sharks are born fully developed at about 30 centimeters long. Nurse sharks engage in multiple paternity during mating season. A study conducted over a 10-year span found that a brood of nurse sharks had more genotypes than broods with one father. 14 separate genotypes were found in a brood examined, which suggests that more than one father fertilized the mother's eggs. Engagement in multiple paternity promotes genetic variation. And that is just the plain nurse shark. Next, we are going to talk about the tawny nurse shark. All right, tawny nurse sharks. These are a species of carpet shark in the family Gigliomostomatidea, and with the only extant member of the genus Nebrius. It is found widely along coastlines in the Indo-Pacific, preferring reefs, sandy flats, and seagrass beds from very shallow water at a depth of 230 feet. With a cylindrical body and a broad, flattened head, the tawny nurse shark is quite similar in appearance to the nurse shark of the Atlantic and Eastern Pacific, from which it can be distinguished by its pointed-tipped dorsal fins and a narrow sickle-shaped pectoral fins. The maximum recorded length of the tawny nurse shark is 10 foot. Nocturnal in habit, the tawny nurse shark tends to spend the day resting in piles of 2 dozen or more individuals inside caves or under ledges. At night, it is an active swimming predator that uses powerful suction force to extract prey from inside holes and crevices. The diet of this species consists mainly of octopus, though they do take other invertebrates, small bony fishes, and rarely sea snakes. It is aplacental viviparous, meaning the embryos hatch from egg capsules inside the mother. It is the only carpet shark in which the embryos are oophagous, feeding on eggs produced by the mother while inside the uterus. The litter size may be as small as 1 or 2 based on the large size of the near-term embryos. Compared to the nurse shark, the tawny nurse shark has a more placid disposition and will often allow divers to touch and play with it. However, it should be accorded respect due to its powerful jaws and sharp teeth. The species is caught by commercial fisheries across most of its range for meat, fins, liver oil, leather, and fish meal. It is also esteemed as a game fish off Queensland, Australia, and is known for its habit of spitting water in the faces of its captors. The International Union for Conservation of Nature has assessed the tawny nurse shark as vulnerable, with subpopulations in several areas already diminished or extirpated. The tawny nurse shark was first described by French naturalist Rene Premier Lesson. It is widely distributed in the Indo-Pacific region. In the Indian Ocean, it is found from KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa, northward to the Red Sea, Persian Gulf, and India, including Madagascar, Mauritius, and the Chagos Archipelago, the Seychelles, and the Maldives. In the Western Pacific, it occurs from southern Japan and the coast of China to the Philippines, Southeast Asia, and Indonesia, to as far south as the northern coast of Australia. In the Central Pacific, it has been reported from off New Caledonia, Samoa, Palau, and the Marshall Islands and Tahiti. Fossil teeth belonging to this species have been found in the previous formation of northern Brazil, dating back to the lower Miocene. The presence of those fossils indicates that the range of tawny nurse sharks once extended to the tropical Atlantic Ocean prior to the formation of the Isthmus of Panama. An inshore species, the tawny nurse shark inhabits continental insular shelves over sandy flats or beds of seagrass, as well as along the outer edges of coral or rocky reefs. The shark may be found from the surf zone, often in water barely deep enough to cover its body, to a maximum depth of 230 feet on coral reefs. It is most common at a depth of 16 to 98 feet. Young sharks are generally found in the shallow areas of lagoons, while adults may be encountered across a variety of habitats. The tawny nurse shark grows to a maximum length of 10 foot. It is a robust cylindrical body with a broadly rounded and flattened head. The eyes are small and face laterally with prominent ridges over them and smaller spiracles behind. There are a pair of long slender barbels in front of the nostrils. The mouth is small with the lower lip divided into 3 lobes. There are 29 to 33 teeth rows in the upper jaw and 26 to 28 teeth rows in the lower jaw, arranged in an intricate pattern, with the outermost 2 to 4 functional rows separated from the rest by a narrow space. Each tooth resembles a fan with a broad base rising to a small, sharp central point flanked by 3 or more smaller cusps on both sides. As the shark ages, the teeth become relatively taller and thicker. The fourth and fifth pairs of gill slits are placed much closer together than others. The dorsal and pelvic fins are angular, with the first dorsal fin larger than the second. The pectoral fins are narrow, pointed, and falcate or sickle shaped. Their shape separates this species from the similar looking nurse shark. The origin of the first dorsal fin is about even with the origin of the pelvic fins, where the origin of the anal fin is even with or somewhat behind the origin of the second dorsal fin. The caudal fin has a shallow upper lobe and barely present lower lobe, comprising about a quarter of total length in adults. The dermal denticles are diamond-shaped, bearing 4 to 5 faint ridges radiating from a blunt point. Tawny nurse sharks are yellowish, reddish, or grayish-brown above and off-white below and are capable of slowly changing their color to blend with the environment. Young sharks have starkly white lower eyelids. Many tawny nurse sharks found off the coast of Japan, Taiwan, and Ryukyu Islands lack a second dorsal fin. The physical abnormality has been speculated to result from pregnant females being exposed to water of unusually high salinity and/or temperature, or possibly human activity. In 1986, a 9-foot 6-inch long male with both a missing dorsal fin and partial albinism in the form of white body color with gray-brown eyes was captured off Wakamiya Prefecture, Japan. This anomalous individual is the largest albino shark to date, having survived for a long time in the wild despite lack of camouflage. With a more streamlined form than other nurse sharks, the tawny nurse shark is believed to be a benthic, more active swimmer. The characteristics of its body, head, fins, and teeth are comparable to other active reef sharks sharing its range, such as the sickle-fin lemon shark. Tawny nurse sharks are primarily nocturnal, though they are said to be active at all hours off Madagascar, and in captivity they will become diurnally active if presented with food. During the day, groups of 2 dozen or more sharks can be found resting inside caves or under ledges, often stacked atop one another. Individual sharks have small home ranges that consistently return to each day. The tawny nurse shark has few natural predators. Attacks on this species have been reported from bull sharks and great hammerheads, while the related nurse shark has been known to fall prey to tiger sharks and lemon sharks. The tawny nurse shark may be one of the few species specializing in preying on octopus. Other known food items include coral, sea urchins, crustaceans, squids, small fishes, and the occasional sea snake. Hunting tawny nurse sharks swim shoally just above the seafloor, poking their heads into depressions and holes. When a prey item is found, the shark forcefully expands its large muscular pharynx, creating a powerful negative pressure that sucks the prey into its mouth. Mating in the tawny nurse shark is known to occur from July to August off Madagascar. Adult females have one functional ovary and two functional uteruses. The mode of reproduction is aplacental viviparity, meaning that the embryos hatch inside the uterus. Females in captivity have been documented depositing up to 52 non-viable egg capsules, which has led to erroneous reports of this shark being ovoviviparous. The egg capsules of this species are onion-shaped with thin brown translucent shells. The tawny nurse shark is the only carpet shark in which there is oophagy. Once the developing embryos exhaust their supply of yolk, they gorge on eggs produced by the mother and acquire the distended abdomen characteristic of such oophagous embryos. Unlike the mackerel sharks, the eggs consumed by the embryos are large and shelled rather than small and undeveloped. There is no evidence of sibling cannibalism as in the sand tiger shark. Various authors have reported the length of birth anywhere from 16 to 31 inches, with the discrepancy probably reflecting geographic variation. Although females release up to 4 fertilized eggs into each uterus, the very large size of the newborn suggests the litter size may be as few as 1 or 2. In one examined female that had 2 embryos sharing a single uterus, one embryo was much smaller and thinner than the other, implying that competition may eliminate the additional sibling. Males attain sexual maturity at a length of 8 foot 2 inches, and females at 7 foot 7 inches to 9 foot 6 inches. Encounters with tawny nurse sharks underwater indicate a more docile demeanor than the similar nurse shark. Usually, divers are able to approach the sharks closely and even touch and play with them without incident. However, this species has been infrequently provoked into biting and merits respect due to its strength, small but sharp teeth, and extremely powerful jaws. Tawny nurse sharks are favorite attractions for eco-tourist divers off Thailand and the Solomon Islands and elsewhere. This species also adapts well to captivity. It is displayed in public aquaria in Europe, the United States, Okinawa, and Singapore, where they may become tame enough to be hand-fed. An Australian woman was bitten while hand feeding them in 2018. The tawny nurse shark is taken by commercial fisheries operating throughout its range, including off Pakistan, India, Thailand, and the Philippines. An exception is in the Australian waters, where it is only taken in small numbers as bycatch. This shark is caught using demersal trawls, floating in fixed bottom gill nets, and on hook and line. The meat is sold fresh or dried or salted. The fins are used for shark fin soup, and the offal processed into fish meal. In addition, the liver is a source of oil and vitamins, and the thick, tough skin is made into leather products. Off Queensland, Australia, the tawny nurse shark is valued by big game anglers. When hooked, large individuals are tenacious opponents and are difficult to subdue due to their habit of spitting. They are also capable of spitting a powerful jet of water into the faces of their captors, making grunting noises in between jets, making the tawny shark one of the few species of shark to produce a noise. Whether this is a deliberate defensive behavior is uncertain. The IUCN has assessed the tawny nurse shark as vulnerable worldwide as it faces heavy fishing pressure and its low reproductive and dispersal rates limit the ability of overexploited populations to recover. Furthermore, the shark's inshore habitat rears its susceptible to habitat degradation, destructive fishing practices, such as poisons and explosives, especially prevalent off Indonesia and the Philippines, and human harassment. Localized declines or extirpations of the tawny nurse shark have been documented off India and Thailand. Off Australia, the species has been assessed as of least concern as there is not targeted by fisheries. And that is the tawny nurse shark. The next nurse shark is the short-tailed nurse shark. This is a shark, the only member of the genus Pseudingomostoma. It is found in the tropical western Indian Ocean between latitudes of 0 degrees and 27 degrees south, and it reaches a length of 75 centimeters. In 2020, a short-tailed nurse shark was caught on footage in South Africa by Forrest Galante as he searched for the white-tip weasel shark. That is pretty much all that is known about the short-tailed nurse shark. It is a very little known shark. All right, our last shark, you guys, is the sand tiger shark, or as it's also known, the gray nurse shark. All right, you guys, the sand tiger shark, also known as the gray nurse shark, not to be confused with the regular nurse shark. This shark is known as the spotted ragtooth shark in South Africa or the blue nurse sand tiger. It's a species of shark that inhabits subtropical and temperate waters worldwide and inhabits the continental shelf from sandy shorelines and submerged reefs to a depth of around 627 feet. They dwell in the waters of Japan, Australia, South Africa, and the east coast of North and South America. The sand tiger shark also inhabited the Mediterranean, however, it was last seen there in 2003 and is presumed extirpated. Despite its common names, it is not closely related to either the tiger shark or the nurse shark. Despite its fearsome appearance and strong swimming ability, it's a relatively placid and slow-moving shark with no confirmed human fatalities. The species has a sharp, pointy head and a bulky body. It can reach 10.5 feet, but is normally 2.2 to 2.5 meters in length. They are gray with reddish-brown spots on their backs. Shivers or groups have been observed to hunt large schools of fish. Their diet consists of bony fish, crustaceans, squid, skates, and other sharks. Unlike other sharks, the sand tiger can gulp air from the surface, allowing it to be suspended in the water column with minimal effort. During pregnancy, the most developed embryo will feed on its siblings, a reproductive strategy known as intrauterine cannibalism, or embryo-oophology, or more colorfully, adelphology, literally eating one's brother. The sand tiger is categorized as critically endangered on the International Union for Conservation of Nature Red List. It is the most widely kept large shark in public aquariums, owing to its tolerance for captivity. Because the sand tiger is a worldwide distribution and has many common names, the term sand tiger shark actually refers to 4 different sand tiger shark species. Furthermore, the name creates confusions with the unrelated tiger shark. The gray nurse shark, the name used in Australia, is the second most used name for the shark, and in India is known as the blue nurse sand tiger. However, there are unrelated nurse sharks in the family. Ginglymostidae, the most unambiguous and descriptive English name is probably the South African one, the spotted ragtooth shark. There are 4 species referred to as sand tiger sharks. This is the sand tiger shark, the Indian sand tiger shark, which very little is known about because it was described before 1900, is probably the same as the sand tiger shark. The small-toothed sand tiger shark, the species has a worldwide distribution and is seldom seen but normally inhabits deeper water. And the big-eyed sand tiger shark, the deep water shark of the Americas, of which little is known. The most likely problem when identifying the sand tiger shark when in the presence of either of the 2 species is the sand tiger shark is usually spotted, especially on the hind half of the body. However, there are other several more reliable differences. The bottom part of the caudal fin or the tail fin of the sand tiger is smaller. The second dorsal fin of the sand tiger is almost as large as the first dorsal fin. The first dorsal fin of the sand tiger is relatively non-symmetric, and the first dorsal fin of the sand tiger is closer to the pelvic fin than to the pectoral fin. Adult sand tigers range from 6.6 foot to 10.5 foot in length, with the most specimens reaching a length of around 2.2 to 2.5 meters and 201 pounds to 351 pounds in weight. The head is pointy as opposed to the round, while the snout is flattened with conical shape. Its body is stout and bulky, and its mouth extends beyond the eyes. The eyes of the sand tiger shark are small, lacking eyelids. The sand tiger usually swims with its mouth open, displaying three rows of protruding, smooth-edged, sharp-pointed teeth. The males have gray claspers with white tips located on the underside of their body. The caudal fin is elongated with an upper lobe. They have two large, broad-based gray dorsal fins set back beyond the pectoral fins. The sand tiger shark has a gray-brown back and pale underside. Adults tend to have reddish-brown spots scattered, mostly on the hind part of the body. In August 2007, an albino specimen was photographed off Southwest Rocks, Australia. The teeth of these sharks have no transverse striations, as many other sharks have. They have large spoon main cusps with tiny cusp split on each side of the main cusp. The upper front teeth are separated from the teeth on the side of the mouth by small intermediate teeth. They roam the epipelagic and mesopelagic regions of the ocean, sandy coastal waters, estuaries, shallow bays, and rocky or tropical reefs at depths of up to 623 feet. The sand tiger shark can be found in the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans and in the Adriatic Seas. In the western Atlantic Ocean, it is found in the coastal waters along the Gulf of Maine to Florida, in the northern Gulf of Mexico around the Bahamas and Bermuda, and from southern Brazil to northern Argentina. It is also found on the eastern Atlantic Ocean from the Mediterranean Sea to the Canary Islands, at the Cape Verde Islands, along the coast of Senegal and Ghana, and from southern Nigeria to Cameroon. In the western Indian Ocean, the shark ranges from South Africa to southern Mozambique, but excluding Madagascar. The sand tiger shark has also been sighted in the Red Sea and may be found as far east as India. In the western Pacific, it has been sighted in the waters around the coast of Japan and Australia, but not around New Zealand. Sand tigers in South Africa and Australia undertake an annual migration that may cover more than 620 miles. They pup during the summer in relatively cold water temperatures, around 61 degrees Fahrenheit. After parturition, they swim northwards to sites where they have suitable rocks or caves, often at water depth of 66 feet, where they mate during and just after the winter. Mating normally takes place at night. After mating, they swim further north to warmer waters where gestation takes place. In autumn, they return southwards to give birth in cooler water. This round trip may encompass as much as 1,900 miles. The young sharks do not take part in this migration, but they are absent from the normal birth grounds during the winter. It is thought that they move deeper into the ocean. At Cape Cod, juveniles move away from coastal areas when water temperature decreases and day length decreases to less than 12 hours. Juveniles, however, return to their usual summer haunts as they become mature and start larger migratory movements. The sand tiger shark is a nocturnal feeder. During the day, they take shelter near rocks, overhangs, caves, and reefs, often at relatively shallower depths. This is a typical environment where divers encounter sand tigers hovering just above the bottom in sandy gutters and caves. However, at night, they leave the shelter and hunt on the ocean bottom, often ranging far from their shelter. Sand tigers hunt by stealth. It is the only shark known to gulp air and store it in the stomach, allowing the shark to maintain near neutral buoyancy, which helps it to hunt motionlessly and quietly. Aquarium observations indicate that when it comes close enough to a prey item, it grabs with quick sideways snap of the prey. The sand tiger shark has been observed to gather in hunting groups when preying upon large schools of fish. The majority of the prey items of the sand tigers are demersal from the sea bottom, suggesting that they hunt extensively on the sea bottom as far out as the continental shelf. Bony fishes form about 60% of the sand tiger's food, the remaining prey comprising sharks, skates, and rays, lobsters, crabs, and squids. In Argentina, the prey includes mostly demersal fishes, the striped weakfish, and white-mouthed croaker. The most important elasma branch prey is the bottom-living, narrow-nosed smooth-hound shark. Benathic rays and skates are also taken, including fang skates, eagle rays, and the angular angel shark, with larger individuals feeding on a higher number of benthic elasma branches than smaller individuals. Stomach content analysis indicates that smaller sand tigers mainly focus on the sea bottom as they grow larger and start to take more pelagic prey. This perspective of diet of sand tigers is consistent with similar observations in the northwestern Atlantic and in South Africa, where large sand tigers capture a wider range of shark and skate species as prey from the surf zone to the continental shelf, indicating the opportunistic nature of sand tigers feeding. Off South Africa, sand tigers less than 6.6 feet in length prey on fish about a quarter of their own length. However, large sand tigers capture prey about half their length. The prey items are usually swallowed as three or four chunks. Mating occurs around the months of August and December in the northern hemisphere. During the August through October in the southern hemisphere, the courtship and mating of the sand tigers has been best documented from observations in large aquaria. In Ocean World Sydney, the females tend to hover just above the sandy bottom where they were when they're receptive. This prevents males from approaching from underneath towards their cloaca. Often there is more than one male close by, with the dominant one remaining close to the female, intimidating others with an aggressive display in which the dominant shark closely follows the tail of the subordinate, forcing the subordinate to accelerate and swim away. The dominant male snaps at the smaller fish of the other species. The male approaches the female, and the two sharks protect the sandy bottom over which they interact. Strong interest of the male is indicated by superficial bites in the anal and pectoral fin areas of the female. The female responds with superficial biting of the male. The behavior continues for several days, during which the male patrols the area around the female. The male regularly approaches the female in nosing behavior to smell the cloaca of the male. If she is ready, she swims off with the male while both partners contort their bodies so that the right clasp of the male enters the cloaca of the female. The male bites the base of her right pectoral fin, leaving scars that are easily visible afterwards. After 1 or 2 minutes, mating is complete and the two separate. Females often mate with more than one male. Females mate only every second or third year. After mating, the females remain behind while the males move off to seek other areas to feed, resulting in many observations of sand tiger populations comprising almost exclusively females. The reproductive pattern is similar to that of many of the shark of the same family to which the sand tigers belong. Female sand tigers have two uterine horns that, during early embryonic development, may have as many as 50 embryos that obtain nutrients from their yolk sacs and possibly consume uterine fluids. When one of the embryos reaches 4 inches in length, it eats all the smaller embryos so only one large embryo remains in each uterine horn, a process called interuterine cannibalism. While multiple male sand tigers commonly fertilize a single female, some Adelophugi sometimes excludes all but one of them from gaining offspring. These surviving embryos continue to feed on a steady supply of unfertilized eggs. After a lengthy labor, the female gives birth to 3.3-foot long, fully independent offspring. The gestation period is approximately 8 to 12 months. These sharks give birth only every second or third year, resulting in an overall mean reproductive rate of less than one pup per year, one of the lowest reproductive rates for sharks. In the northern Atlantic, sand tiger sharks are born around 1 meter in length. During the first year, they grow about 27 centimeters to reach 1.3 meters. After that, the growth rate decreases by about 2.5 centimeters each year until it stabilizes at around 7 centimeters. Males reach sexual maturity at an age of 5 to 7 years and approximately 6.2 feet in length. Females reach maturity when approximately 7.2 foot long at about 7 to 10 years of age. They are normally not expected to reach lengths of over 3 meters, and lengths around 2.2 to 2.5 is more common. In informal media such as YouTube, there have been several reports of sand tigers around 5 meters long, but none of these have been verified scientifically. As of 2023, the Florida's Museum International Shark Attack File lists 36 unprovoked, non-fatal attacks by sand tiger sharks. Over the weekend of July 4th, 2023, there were 4 attacks attributed to sand tiger sharks in New York, USA. This followed a recent spike in shark attacks in the New York State, with 13 incidents reported over a 2-year period. In Australia and South Africa, one of the most common practices in beach holiday areas is to erect shark necks around the beaches, frequently used by swimmers. Those necks are erected some 1,300 feet from the shore and act as gill nets to trap incoming sharks. This was the norm until about 2005. In South Africa, the mortality of sand tiger sharks caused a significant decrease in the length of these animals, and it was concluded that shark necks pose a significant threat to the species with its very low reproductive rate. Before 2000, these nets snagged about 200 sand tiger sharks per year in South Africa, of which about only 40% survived and were released alive. The efficiency of shark nets for prevention of unprovoked shark attacks on bathers has been questioned, and since 2000, there has been a reduced use of these nets, and alternative approaches have been developed. In Argentina, the prey items of sand tigers largely coincide with an important commercial fisheries targets. Humans affect sand tiger food availability, and the shark, in turn, compete with humans for food that, in turn, have already been heavily exploited by the fisheries industry. The same applies to both bottom living sea catfish, a fisheries resource off the South African coast. A study near Sydney, Australia, found that the behavior of the shark is affected by the proximity of scuba divers. Diver activity affects the aggregation, swimming, and respiratory behavior of sharks, but only at short time scales. The group size of scuba divers was less important in affecting sea and tiger shark behavior than the distance within which they approached the sharks. Divers approaching within 3 meters of the sharks affected their behavior, but after the divers had retreated, the sharks resumed normal behavior. Other studies indicate sea and tiger sharks can be indifferent towards divers. Scuba divers are normally compliant with the Australian shark diving regulations. In large, its large and menacing appearance, combined with its relatively placidity, has made the sand tiger shark among the most popular shark species to be displayed in public aquaria. However, as with all large sharks, keeping them in captivity is not without its difficulties. Sand tiger sharks have been found to be highly susceptible to developing spinal deformities, with as many as 1 in every 3 captive sharks being affected, giving them a hunched appearance. These deformities have been hypothesized to be correlated to both the size and shape of their tank. If the tank is too small, the sharks have to spend more time actively swimming than they would in the wild where they have space to glide. Also, sharks in small circular tanks often spend most of their time circling along the edges in one direction, causing asymmetrical stress on their bodies. There are several factors contributing to the decline in the population of sand tigers. They reproduce low, which has a lot to do with it. They can be caught by commercial fisheries. They are overfished. The estuaries along the United States that house many of the sand tiger sharks are susceptible to non-point source pollution that is harmful to the pups. And in eastern Australia, the breeding population was estimated to be fewer than 400 reproductively mature animals, a number believed to be too small to sustain a healthy population. This species is therefore listed as critically endangered and as endangered under Queensland's Nature Conservation Act of 1992. A recent report from the Pew Charitable Trust suggests that new management approach for large mammals that have suffered population declines could hold promise for sharks. Because of the life history characteristics of sharks, conventional fisheries management approaches such as reaching maximum sustainable yield may not be sufficient to rebuild depleted shark populations. Some more stringent approaches used to reverse declines in large mammals may be appropriate for sharks, including prohibitions on the retention of the most vulnerable species and regulation of international trade. And I want to thank you all so much for tuning in to Amazing Sharks. We will see you again soon.